Deepika Padukone's My Choice video. Is it empowering or hypocritical? That's the talking point tonight. Joining us, a very special panel of guests this evening on India at 9. Bhumi Pednekar, who's an actress, Shobha Day, columnist and author, Guneet Monga, the producer of Lunchbox, Sonal Gera, sub-editor entertainment with the Indian Express, who's also written about this video, and Sohail Seth, managing partner, Councilage. Good evening to all of you. Let me start with you, Sohail Seth. What do you make of this video?
I think it's excellent. I think it's excellent, it's relevant, it's timely, it's a mirror on the warps and the warts in our society. We can all have issues with its creativity and its creative rendition, but I don't think we should be hypocritical to either suggest that these issues don't exist or the fact that these issues shouldn't be highlighted. The fact that, Palki, you are discussing this at 9 p.m. on March the 31st, prime time on CNN IBN, is reflective of the fact that this video has had an impact. Now, in this country, there are many people with multifarious opinions, and they're entitled to those opinions, but I don't think we should either trash Deepika Padukone, who is just a mascot for this video, because she is popular, she is well known, or for that matter, we should decry the issues that have been raised. People may have, there's a famous Bertrand Russell quote, with forms of government, let fools contest, that which is governed best is best. I think, to use that analogy here, it is a video, it's 2 minutes or 2 minutes, however long it is. The fact is that it has created an impact, and we must recognize that this is an issue that needs to be highlighted and dealt with. That male hypocrisy needs to deal with the fact that in a gender equal world, the man can't be patronizing and can't determine the social agenda. Now, you might have issues with adultery, blah, 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 but again, that's been taken out of context. The context is very simple. If men can do what they want, why should women be deprived of their choice?
Right.
That's why it's called My Choice, and it's not called Women of India.
Right.
That's the difference.
It's nobody's contention that it hasn't made an impact, but the question is it belittling the entire idea of empowerment for women? Shobha Day, I read your blog and I smiled through it. I have to say, I couldn't agree more with you. You've called it, and I'm quoting, a meandering, meaningless, tiresome vanity project.
Yes, I have. I feel that the kind of fuss over the film, it's simply not warranted. It could have been ignored, or you can watch it, you can be indifferent to it, you can shrug and say, well, maybe for some it's a very impactful film, for others it's not an impactful film. The question itself of whether it's empowering is the important question, I would say. Whether it's hypocritical or not, we can't possibly crawl into the heads and minds of the people who are behind this endeavor. I'm sure they meant well, and it was a well-intentioned, good-intentioned project. But what is it saying? Half of it, even though, as Sohail has pointed out, it's a mere 2.5 minutes, but 2.5 minutes can say a lot. If it's a film that is a message film, which this is. What is that message? I'm sorry, I couldn't get it. I couldn't determine whether I was a snowflake, a snow fall, whether I was meant to say I'm all for adultery, not for adultery, whether there's a bindi on my head, whether, my choice, my body, my mind. It was such a confused film. And it's not about trashing Deepika, it's not about trashing the magazine, it's not about trashing the filmmaker. It's merely seeing the film in the context in which it is meant. It's meant for public viewing. The public has responded. So have the men. So many men. There have been spoofs galore. It's been sent up by a lot of comic actors. It lends itself wonderfully to parody. So are we making too much of something which is really quite flimsy? Is my whole point. Does a woman feel more empowered because she's showing a bra strap, or saying I can come home at 6 in the morning, or I can have sex outside of marriage, I can have sex with a woman, with a man, with no sex at all, etc. If we understand that culturally it's a niche magazine, it's a fashion magazine, it's not a fashion, it's a fashion Bible, it's not a feminist Bible, then all is good. They're already talking to the converted. They're talking to converts. It's a script that everybody who reads Vogue is aware of. So it's really okay. But did it impress me? I'm sorry, it didn't. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying condemn the film.
Right.
You can view it and make up your own mind. A lot of people have made up their own minds, apparently.
Clearly, and you've called
Going
it
by the
flimsy,
buzz.
but
But it's
unfortunately,
not just about, yeah.
Yeah, the issue it raises is not a flimsy one, and it's an issue that a lot of women care very seriously about, and that is what I think triggers, that is why the debate is taking place. Now, Bhumi Pednekar, you've been called rather the woman who changed the Hindi film heroine's image, and then you see such a video which shows a pregnant woman for size 15 and talks about body image and empowerment. Do you relate to this film? Does it make sense to you?
You know, when I watched the video, I watched it and then I didn't really have an opinion about it. But I feel for me, being empowered is to be able to make your own choices, and that's what the video speaks about. Everything that they spoke about wasn't a problem in my life, but I'm sure it does affect some other girl in some other way. So I did not mind the video, but it didn't have a major impact on me. And as an actor whose first project, I'm 86 kgs in the film, and I've made my choices a little differently, but that was because they were my choices.
Right.
And I feel everybody should have an opinion, and it is absolutely okay for somebody to feel a certain way, for a writer to pen something down a certain way. For me, the biggest thing over here is that this video has started a debate. It has started a dialogue. It started a chat, which I feel is very, very important, because personally I believe that that's what our country needs today. There is something that we are suffering. There clearly is gender inequality, even though I haven't faced it, but because of whatever is on the internet, whatever we see in the media, I have become more aware of what's going on in our country.
Right.
So I feel that I'm sure it will have an impact on a certain number of people, and even if it's a small impact, why not? At least people are speaking about it today.
Right. Sohail, you want to say something? I want to bring in Guneet Monga in a bit, but you want to make a point. And even as a lot of women think that they relate to it, a lot of others think that this video makes a mockery of the entire issue of empowerment and what it means to them.
No. I'm sorry, it doesn't make a mockery of any issue. The issue is very clearly women's empowerment. The rendition may or may not be agreed with by a lot of women, which is fair. To say that these issues don't exist or these issues belong to the elite is equally silly. Some of the dolts on Twitter have been bashing the film, saying, oh, does she condone adultery? She doesn't. She talks about the fact that men in this country are willing to be adulterous and brag about their adultery, but they want their women to be enslaved. The reality is that. Let's stop being in denial. You think in Delhi where you work or in Noida, there's no adultery? And is adultery only confined to the elite? There's no adultery in the lower echelons of our society?
And adultery is not confined to men only.
One of the many issues. And adultery is one of the many issues. The hypocrisy of the Indian male is something that is coming up to the fore. That we want our women to live by standards that are puritanical, that are pure, that are saintly. We want to be the marauders and the satans, and we believe because of our gender we have the right to. That, to my mind, is something that this film will give as a wake-up call to those loutish, hypocritical Indian men. And by the way, when you talk about size 15, we who are overweight, I mean not we in the panel other than me, we are always told, oh, you're overweight. The point is, I can live with my weight, but can you live with your feeble intellect? That's the question. And I think we need to observe the film in the context of which it was made, for two reasons. It was made to highlight the pitiable state of hypocrisy that exists in India, qua women derived from men. And the second is, does this trigger a debate? And to my mind, it does. The fact that you're on the panel, Shobha, Bhumi, and all the others, is representative of the fact that we can't deny the realities that we live with.
Sure.
You know, for far too long, this country has been in denial. We think our leaders are pure. We think they're from the driven snow. You've had people in high office living in sin, for God's sake. So stop being hypocritical. Sorry, excuse me.
Right. Shobha Dey, do you want to respond to that? Isn't this video confusing free sex and perhaps weight and clothes with empowerment?
the messaging of the video is so confused. I'm not sure what exactly it's trying to say. There are far too many issues going all over the place. There are too many emotives one has to absorb and deal with. So, as I said earlier, I'm sure it was intended to start a dialogue. It was intended to table issues that are of great importance. But at the end of the day, I'm sure the dialogue can go beyond what is being said, which is also, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It cannot be an all-inclusive film that in India we have just so many complex problems to deal with. It is dealing with specifics, but the point is that a lot of people are perhaps wrongly attributing these specifics to a position that Deepika Padukone herself has taken or chosen to take in this video, or it's the filmmaker saying these are the positions that I want my protagonist to take. I don't know if that is so, because there's no clarification on that. That it is going out to an audience such as ourselves who will understand it in the right context, completely agree. But that in the social media platforms, it can reach just about anybody. What sense is it going to make to people who are not like us? I'm not sure at all. What is it trying to say? I'm not sure at all. It is very glamorized. One expects that when it's being backed by Vogue, which is one of the most glamorous magazines on earth. Whether the whole issue is being trivialized, that is the debate, and that will continue, I'm sure.
Guneet Monga, it's a beautiful video, very well shot and produced, and Deepika Padukone, we know, is a celebrity. Even if half the people who watched it have trashed it, the fact is that it's got over 3 million hits. Is this then an opportunity lost? So much more could have been done on this platform. Instead, they've put out a cosmetic message on empowerment.
Well, I quite like the video, and I shared it on my Facebook wall, and hundreds of my friends have further on shared it. For me, the idea was that we were always put into these boxes, that you have to marry, you have to reach a certain age, you have to do this. We've been talking about women empowerment for a long time. But I mean, it is, but you know, you face it too much, and you face it in your face all the time, and I'm just saying, the way we are in India, as more the many people see it, this video is basically trying to get a reaction. And it is leading into a reaction. It is a wake-up call, like Sohail has said. It is titillating some thoughts, and trivial issues out of this are being picked up and made larger than life. But having said that, this pokes people, this gets you out of your comfort zone, this gets you to wake up and ask certain questions on where we stand, why are we here, and what do we need. I mean, it's okay to have sex, it's okay to have your own choice, and I think they've been very clear. So for me, it's not been a confused message, and for me, yes, it is a very well produced video.
Okay. Sonal Gera, you've called this video a glamorized campaign. Do you find it hypocritical?
I totally find it is actually hypocritical, because I don't understand how empowerment is related to the sex life of a certain person. Like, I can have sex here, there, or after marriage, outside marriage. How the hell it is empowerment? Empowerment would be when the girls are getting educated, when they have the rights to follow their passion, their dreams. I don't think having sex outside marriage is one of the dreams of anybody. And as Sohail sir said, yeah, we might have a feeble intellect, sir, but there is a, I mean, the issues are so superficial. We talk about weight gain, weight loss. What next? I mean, these aren't the issues that actually concern the average woman of India. What actually concerns is a lot, goes a lot beyond than what is shown in the video, I guess.
Right.
So I totally find it quite hypocritical.
So and sure,
nothing to take away from Deepika Padukone. When the whole when the whole cleavage controversy happened, I was the first one to file an article supporting her. So I have nothing against Deepika or any of the actresses who are doing this, but then the video sends the message totally wrong.
Right. So I'll say the fact that they've called it an empowerment campaign is perhaps what has riled people. If it is for a targeted audience, that is the readers of the Vogue magazine, they should say it. Why should they delude themselves and others by trying to say that they are trying to create awareness? You know,
I don't want to give a Renan Martin lesson on national TV on the intricacies of the English language, but it falls very well within the domain of empowerment. Let me shred Sonal's logic to little shreds. Number one, if she believes that obesity is not an issue, she should look at the balance sheet of VLCC, where women pre and post marriage are battling obesity because their loutish husbands don't want fat wives or fat girlfriends. Number two, look at the fairness screams and the havoc that they are creating amidst our social fabric. And enough has been said about that. The Fair and Lovely campaigns or Dark and Handsome and all that rubbish. We have stereotyped Indian society, qua men and women. Get real, guys. When the Indian Express, many years ago, her alma mater and her current newspaper ran an entire front page on the march to Raisina Hill under the journalism of courage, people appreciated that because that was a point of view that the newspaper had. This is a point of view that Homi the filmmaker has, and he has used Deepika Padukone, not you or me, as the mascot for that message. Please, for God's sake, Palki, I just want to say three little things. Number one, it is a 2-minute video and it is not a fire, it is just a flame meant to trigger thought. Number two, if magazines don't do it, if private citizens don't do it, if established media houses don't do it, who will? Number three, we need to break these taboos which are relevant across our societal strata. Please read your matrimonial advertising. If that isn't a reflection of the reprehensible mindsets that infect our country, I ask you what
but
is.
But these are the same pressures,
you know,
I believe, that men also
Twitter,
face, that they have to start earning by a certain age, that they have to look a certain way before they get married, that they have to behave in a certain way.
Tell me about it.
Sorry?
Palki, tell me about it. I face those pressures. I face those pressures every day. My mother wants me to dye my hair to black. I'm told that I'm overweight.
Sure.
So, you know, I'm facing those same issues. I'm waiting for someone to make a film on male empowerment, and probably Esquire or GQ will do that in the spirit of things. The fact is, let us not mock an effort which was made out of well-intentioned beliefs that we were creating a dysfunctional, unequal society, and that it was time for us to look ourselves in the mirror and say, if this is us, do we need to change? And if we need to change, how should we? It's as simple as that. You know, don't convolute things.
Right.
We look for rocket science in every little experiment in our country. Let's stop that.
Okay, so then, Shobhade, is it fair to say that this is just an elitist, perhaps aesthetic product? Treat it as an act of creative expression. Do not expect it to address a cause.
No, I didn't say that.
You know, I have a problem with using the word elitist almost like an abuse or a put down. The magazine itself addresses the elite. It is not meant for rural India, so I'm assuming this message is also not meant for ladies in our villages who don't, most of them who don't read. That is the point. These are the women. If we're talking about empowerment, we should have also talked about educating the women. We should have perhaps talked about violence in our streets, which affects urban ladies as well as women in rural India. There are many aspects to empowerment, but like I said, it can't be a film that pleases everybody. So if it's elitist, yes, I would say it is unapologetically elitist, which is why the filmmaker has used a very beautiful Deepika Padukone to convey his message. He didn't use just any old Jane, or he didn't pick an anonymous person. He wanted whatever this message is to get across to people who read Vogue or who are part of the urban landscape of India. And perhaps for them, if it triggers off this flame, or not all of them can be Bertrand Russell, but if that flame does get triggered off and translates into something which is even inward, maybe a look at themselves, their lives, their hypocrisies, the lives of the men around them, the lives of urban India, perhaps it has served a certain purpose. I'm just extraordinarily confused. I'm not Bertrand Russell. I don't know what that purpose and what that message is, other than seeing a film that is made with a lot of, I'm sure, styling and thought behind it, which is great to look at. 2.5 minutes, you could have said a lot about true empowerment, which has to do with very underprivileged women of our country struggling to stay alive, struggling to find a loo to use, struggling to get water to cook for their families. They are not the ones saying, can I have sex outside marriage, and can I, this is my choice, and so on. So, we shouldn't damn the film. It's not meant for them. We should say, fine, it's a film made for us. We have watched it, some of us have liked it, some of us haven't. There's nothing personal about liking or disliking it, and let's leave it at that.
Well, I just have to add to that, saying that, there are so many women who actually don't understand that it is my choice in the first place. I mean, there are so many urban women. I mean, we can sit here and assume that we understand and this is an elitist effort of not preaching to people, but I think
would you make
this
a
is
similar
extremely
film on women's
empowering.
empowerment?
No.
If you were asked to make a film?
I mean, why do similar? I mean, we will. There should be many more films on women empowerment, and of course, I mean, this is a start in a country where India's daughter is banned, in a country where in 2015 we don't have our freedom of speech is being curbed. There is this effort that is being done. Instead of making it a big deal, I think it is a step forward for us, and I'm coming from a fact that so many people do not understand that they do have a choice of walking out of a situation than being abused on daily basis. So for me, that choice is quite empowering.
Right. I'll have
But
to...
abuse has not been addressed.
No, it's not being, but I don't think a lot of people even understand the
Problems
abuse.
have not been addressed in any meaningful way.
No,
Urban domestic violence issues could also have been perhaps slipped in, but I didn't see any of that.
Right.
I just saw a person saying, I'm independent and these are the choices I make, which is all great. But not every woman in India, unfortunately, 99% of the women of India do not have access to choice in the first place.
Exactly
and
my point.
Certainly not choices of this kind.
No,
I mean, the other choices are far more, to me, have far more import, and perhaps the film could have addressed those as well, and not just these very few choices about being single and being a woman who has sovereignty over her sexuality, her body type, her mind, and so on. Had the film just been called My Choice, and it had someone like a Deepika talking about choice, I would have had no problem with it. The minute you talk about in the context, in a wider context of empowerment, then I'm sure a lot of people will agree, empowerment in our country, where there are so many different Indias coexisting, empowerment has a huge responsibility, the word itself. And we cannot reduce it to just something like this.
But I'm not saying reducing it. I'm saying there is also 5 other things to be addressed. Maybe this has not addressed the core issues that you're looking at, but it has addressed issues like body weight, physical appearance. I mean, it is timings of coming home. I mean, there are lots of small
these
things.
These aren't core issues, as you've just said.
Of course,
it's not.
but what I'm trying to
is a country where women
what
are
I'm trying to
struggling
say, everything
survive.
is not about core issues.
They're struggling to survive against such daunting odds.
Exactly, but
it's not about coming home late.
No, absolutely.
So,
but why does everything need to be in a certain box
no,
of a framework?
Point. It's
exactly.
really a starting
I mean,
point. It's one aspect of a dialogue, not the total dialogue in itself, which is also fine. So accept it for what it is.
Right.
And let's not intellectualize it and overanalyze it and do it to death, because it's a dialogue
what you're doing.
will be an ongoing thing.
Right.
Exactly.
We don't need to
We're
overanalyze.
We're running out of time,
To
so
me,
I'll say it quickly. So I'll say it very quickly, 30 seconds.
Palki, I will end by saying, in this country we've become so cynical. We have a problem for every solution. For God's sake, it's a 2-minute video. It is not the end of the world. It is not a 26-part epic series. These issues cannot be addressed by a single magazine. They must belong to society and every element of society,
But we make
be
the
it
society.
media, be it the political establishment. Of
Right.
course we make the
Right.
society. So it has to impact us. We can't be doing lip service.
Sure.
Finally, just like no publisher or editor can tell Shobha Day what her creative interpretation of society as she sees it must be, none of us has either the right or the temerity to suggest what Homi should do. We have the right to criticize what he's done, but we can't question the right to interpret. We must question the interpretation.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
See,
I
love
can't
Shobha
trash
for
my
that.
critics either. They're free to massacre me, and I can take it on the chin. That's what a democracy is about. I
Correct.
mean, my books don't have to be loved by anybody.
Right.
And they have the right to say it
I
and
love
trash
them.
me. Similarly, on a show like this, we are free to express opinions which may
Sure.
not suit maybe the
Absolutely.
filmmaker.
You know what?
That's
You know
it.
what heartens me? That we have a man on the panel defending this video that is talking about my choice for women, and there are women who are questioning it. So that's certainly one takeaway for me. Thank you all.
Again,
and I
you're
want
bringing gender bias. Again,
No,
you're
that was
bringing
not the
gender
idea.
bias.
That was not the idea.
You
But I
are
want to-
bringing gender
I want to
bias.
wrap. I want to wrap by borrowing the words of my producer here, who said that this is an extreme reaction, perhaps, to the patriarchy that does exist and bothers all of us in this society. One may agree or disagree with the style and the content, but one will not question the intent of the video. Thank you all for joining us on this debate tonight.